What's up, War Report family? It's your boy C Dub. After a busy weekend in the transfer portal, we ask you guys, who's next? Who will join Auburn football out of the transfer portal next? All the guys are here to discuss that. We want to hear your thoughts on the latest weekend tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Report Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
Happy Sunday, everyone. I am joined by the fellas. Welcome to the latest weekend tailgate. Guys, y'all doing all right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys. Good to be back. Good to see everyone joining us. Facebook, YouTube, as well as the Twitter. Guys, you're watching the latest weekend tailgate. And do us a favor. Share this video on social media. I mentioned Facebook and I mentioned Twitter. Please do so on those apps. Use the hashtag and even at us. Smash the like button. Please listen to John as a man of wisdom. He says smash the like button. Do that. Help us with the YouTube algorithm and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Ike's got some amazing film to cut up on some new additions to this football team. Maybe even basketball as well. Ike, tell the people how they can get that.
You got to become a member of the War Report. Listen, we have this paywall content, not because it's some secret about what's going on with these folks, but it takes a while for me to get all this stuff together. And I really want to share the fruits of that labor with people who I know are invested with us together, man. I want to have conversations about our players with people who I feel like are really in it for it. I don't want to just have random people popping up giving their opinions about Auburn. I don't care what they have to think. I want the War Report family to come in and have conversations about this stuff. So we're putting it behind the paywall. Hopefully you guys enjoy and are ready for that stuff. I do have both basketball and football people queued up and ready to go, and we will get into that. I know everybody wants to get into the quarterback first, right? I understand that. But there are other people who have come on board since before that. So I want to give those people their time as well. But don't worry. Don't worry. We got plenty of film to review for all of the new additions. So come on board as a member. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that right now from the live chat. Let somebody else get a free month on you. And then they'll have to foot the bill. After that, YouTube will randomly assign that to somebody. We're going to give away another mug. We love giving the mugs away. Hashtag get your weight up in the live chat. You got to be present to win. So unfortunately, if you're over there in the Facebook world, you have to be over here on YouTube to be able to win this stuff. But you can, be with us for the first 30 minutes and then come on over to the other side. But, hashtag get your weight up, sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services, as always. And we appreciate them for continuing to support the War Report.
Guys, busy weekend. Started on Friday with news of Peyton Thorne, the Michigan State transfer QB, committing to Auburn, making it official. Hugh Freeze got a QB. We'll talk about the wide receiver who actually committed yesterday, but Ike and Mike went live. We had a special guest, the Commodore, JG Tate of AuburnSports.com, to join us to kind of weigh in on that QB edition, as well as just kind of their thoughts about what to expect this summer and fall. B. Will and I were missing from that. B. Will, I will start with you, your reaction just to this whole process in terms of QB recruits, as well as your thoughts about our newest addition to the QB room.
Man, the process is, I don't know. Cross your fingers, hope a guy that you want jumps in the portal, and then just go recruit him aggressively. Seems to be the strategy. I mean, I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason towards it. I'm trying to decide if I like transfer portal recruitment or out of high school recruitment better, because out of high school you got to keep up this press for like 2 years on these dudes, and even then they might still get courted by another school and snatch them away. I'm sure arrangements change in those 2 years. If we've seen, what was it with Jaden Rashad in Florida, all the arranging going on in the background had an impact on his recruitment. And that stuff is in flux for 2 years. This seems to be more straightforward. It seems to be more about, all right, who are you as a coach? What do you have in the room already where I'm coming to play? What is playing? How realistic is playing time for me? Does your system fit me? What are you telling me? All right, I like it. Let's go. And in some ways, I feel like that's got to be a win. If you have an attractive program, then that's got to be a win. If you have a defensive coordinator that's been killing it, and you're after a defensive recruit, I bet that's a win. Especially if you have after a defensive recruit whose position you need reinforcement at. And the same thing for offense. If you're an offensive head coach, if you got enough bona fide material to say, hey, you know who I am. I'm Kevin Durant. I'm just playing. But that's what it comes down to. You have to be able to say, I remember you. I know what you've done. I know what you want to do. I see the talent down there. Okay, I'm ready. Let's go. We had just enough, apparently, to get Peyton Thorne down here and on board. Something that Ike and Mike said on the live yesterday, on Friday, that I actually echo was, this was their guy of the guys who were available. And I think that's important to note. Do I believe that Peyton Thorne is number one on our board coming out of high school? If Hugh Freeze was here 3-4 years ago, no, probably not. Probably not. But if you look at his tape, which I know Ike will get a chance to do, and again, Ike, Mike, and JG even talked about some of his statistics on the live on Friday, where he completes at a highest percentage. His deep ball is supposedly fantastic. Hey, if you had concerns about going deep, you get a guy who can complete a deep ball. I actually saw Cole Kublik. He did a little breakdown after watching some Peyton Thorne film, and wrote a long Twitter note about, like, hey, so tough kid. He's not gonna be the best quarterback in the country, but he's a coach's kid. He's a smart kid, and he seems to at least get and be able to run your system. He's accurate here. He needs some work there. It seems like this is a raise the floor very high pickup. And I think that's valuable. That's extremely valuable. If you're going to reinforce a room, don't do it with, well, the ceiling might be high, but the floor is just as low. No. Raise the floor. In that way, I like this pickup. I thought KC Thompson may have a higher ceiling than Peyton Thorne. I think he does have a higher ceiling, but I get why you raise the floor. I get why that's something that you want to do as a coaching staff. So listen, man, it's their staff. This is the staff's choice. This is their offense. They're picking the guy who they think can raise the floor and the play of this room. We just got to say, hey, let's see it then. Let's go do it. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, I echo that. I just want to add right to the point that B kind of started with. This is who they wanted. There was a lot of smoke around Casey Thompson. For whatever reason, there was smoke around him. And as it turns out, he was always the backup plan for Hugh Freeze and staff. He was never first on their list. He was coming off an off-season shoulder surgery that it seemed like everybody just didn't want to talk about for some reason. But, at Nebraska, they were literally talking about managing that injury headed into the spring to make sure they didn't re-injure it. Now, if you're going to go out and get a portal QB, you certainly don't want to bring somebody in who has the potential to be right where Robbie Ashford was all of last year, playing with a hurt throwing shoulder. So Thorne was the guy. That's who they wanted to get. And again, just reinforcing what B was talking about, because I think it was Ike was the first one that made the point about this addition, not necessarily changing your ceiling, but raising your floor. Right. So if you're a QB that's in this room right now, you've got to raise your floor, or good luck, because even if your upside is higher, what they're trying to avoid are the extreme ebbs and flows that come with players who can't be consistent. That's really difficult to manage during the game. Throw a 50-yard bomb, throw a pick, right? Mm-hmm. Throw a perfect pass over the middle, fumble for no reason, right? They're trying to eliminate the unforced errors. And Peyton Thorne, to some extent, does that for you. So, who is this kid, right? You got to remember, He balled out in an 11-2 season. Got Mel Tucker paid a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes!
Well, him and Walker.
they paid him Jimbo Fisher type money, just to be kind of like in that place right now. We're like, maybe that wasn't the best decision, but we'll see. He's still got time to turn it around, right? I like Mel Tucker, but man, he's got some stuff to do, right? And then in the following season, which a lot of my Michigan State friends are telling me, Thorne is average. I like how they act like they didn't want him. JG was pretty clear. There was a strong push to keep Thorne.
Mm-hmm.
There was a strong push to keep him on campus. And he still threw for 2,600 yards, which still raises the floor of this current QB room. If he just goes out and does what he did last year, that raises the floor, does it not, gentlemen?
Absolutely. Well, that's my take on this. And I know we had a comment here that we kind of already have addressed. Brad Browning, appreciate you being with us. He asked, Thorne is a good get, but would you guys be happier with Thompson? No, because I have watched this coaching staff evaluate QBs throughout this process. They didn't just go grab a body. They were very selective in terms of who they wanted.
That's right.
Spencer Sanders was in the portal. People wanted us to get him. They didn't bring him in.
He wanted us to get him.
Right. Chance
Nolan.
Nolan.
You cool.
Chance Nolan, Oregon State. I was hearing that name.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't bring him in.
Mm-hmm.
The one guy that they did bring in, it almost looked like, hey, all systems go. And then here comes Peyton Thorne. And the coaching staff says, hold up. We got the person we wanted. So I think this coaching staff sees exactly what they want. And even Hugh Freeze talked to the media about people tagging the coaching staff as if coaches aren't paying attention. Right. And
hey, did you hear about this guy? You
right? No, I didn't.
Never heard of him.
I mean,
they don't let us see the transfer portal when you guys do.
I get paid millions of dollars to know these kids, but no, I never heard of them.
Yeah, never heard of them.
So this coaching staff knew exactly who fits what they want to do. Right. And so the fact that they got this guy says a lot. Mike G, you mentioned, year two of Thorne at Michigan State wasn't quite the same as the year prior, but there's a lot of context.
But it wasn't
a lot of people don't want to talk about.
Right, but it wasn't that terrible.
It wasn't
all things considered. Right?
That's the point.
3,200 yards versus 2,600 yards. Right now, he threw for 27 touchdowns versus 10 interceptions in 2021. But it was a different dynamic. And the other thing that people aren't talking about at Michigan State that I think needs to be screened from the rooftop is their locker room is falling apart right now. They're losing it there. And if you're Thorne and you got a couple years left to play, you're like, okay, do I stay on this sinking ship? Right? Because you know what happens is when the locker room is a mess and the coaching staff is a mess, talent gets lost. Yeah. They start reaching, they start making bad decisions, and they start playing players who may not be the best players. Right. So, I mean, he might just be thinking, all right, like it might be time to start over. And, and again, for any kid who gets the chance to graduate and then go do something else, I say do it. So, again, there was a narrative out that Auburn was tampering on Thorne, and I'm just like, it's not a real thing, dude. Like, it's stupid. Auburn wasn't tampering on Thorne. I mean, what happens is that these coaches have an idea of who's going to get in the portal, and they start floating it out, the idea into college football sphere. Hey, we'd be open if he was interested. His camp hears that, right? And, it is what it is. I don't really think there's anything. So if a kid wants to leave, he's going to leave.
Now, I would ask you, though, Mike, how do these coaches know that a player is thinking?
Well, I mean, it's not really that difficult.
I'm about to say, players talk, bro.
They talk. They talk, right? And, if they're getting ready to leave, I'm sure they have avenues where they put things out that they know it's going to get out, right? Or they'll say things publicly. Are you returning next year? Oh, well, I go to blah, blah, blah. Oh, he's interested, right?
Like Bo at the 2021 Iron Bowl.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And remember, everybody, literally, we had some dum-dums reporting that he was returning. All the while, me and Ike were like, did he say that? He didn't say that. As a matter of fact, he said quite the opposite. But people still openly speculated that he was returning when he was pretty clear. And it started with him. So if you were looking for a quarterback, you knew Bo Nix was going to be an opportunity for you before he got in the portal. Nobody tampered with Bo.
Right.
Right.
He put the bad signal out.
Yeah, right. The coaches started looking. So, I mean, Thorne is an interesting case study to me. Again, 8.3 yards per average per throw versus 6.9 the following year. He was about the same quarterback. He had the exact same amount of attempts, 390 both years. And he had a completion percentage that was actually 2 percentage points higher in 2022 than it was in 2021, even though they had a worse season and, he had fewer yards. So, I mean, I think at this point, you just kind of know who he is. And you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, like what was the bar that we set for our, any quarterback that not named Thorne? Like we wanted them to just get into the 60s in completion percentage. Well, you brought in a guy who already has done that at the Power 5 level. That's what you brought in. Then that's why I defer to what Ike was saying about, like, again, raising the floor of this QB room. Now, if you've been in this QB room, you have to raise your floor to whatever Thorne's 60-something% is. Or it's going to be really difficult to beat him just based on big play upside. Right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. Like, I still don't think it's a guarantee, but it's going to be difficult for any of these guys in this room to overcome if they believe he'll go out and just do what he did in 2021. Plus a run game that you believe in, right? Yeah. And possibly a defense that might be, above average. And, if you go out and you find him some receivers. One thing that I did ask JG was, is the talent on Auburn's roster better than what he's leaving at Michigan State? Right? And what did he say? He was kind of iffy on.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't very enthused by our wide receiver room, so they were probably on par. And I pointed out that the run game is probably better at Auburn than Michigan State. Offensive line equal to, if not better. So he's probably walking into a better situation for him overall. If the wide receivers are equal, offensive line equal to or better, and run game's better, he's in a better situation here.
He's in a better situation. Okay.
Yeah. And I wanted to, for context, it's something that I look at, and I was telling Ike this before. Action Network is one of the places resources I use for picking games and betting games of college football season. They have a picking method where they put together a lot of PFF grades, a lot of PFF data, a couple of other places with data, and they come up with a grade for units, for not just the offensive line as a unit, but its run blocking versus its pass protection, so on and so forth. So at the end of the 2021 season, I'm looking at their preview of Michigan State's bowl game against Pitt. So they had played 12 regular season games, and this is the data that was available at that time. Rush success, and that's how, when you want to run the ball, it works. 45, and that is out of 132 FBS teams. Line yards, 75, which means they weren't a great running team as far as run blocking, but their running back did a lot of good work, and he was phenomenal. Pass success, 37, which is fairly good. It's the top quarter of the country. Pass blocking, 30. Big play, 38. Havoc is how often you create really big plays. And if it was a really low score, that means the other team is crashing your party consistently because the defense is getting good plays on your offense. But Havoc, 38. 49.
Sounds like a Madden stat.
I know,
right? Video games are Havoc.
Finishing drive, 69. All right. All of the worst one here is line yards at 75. And most of this stuff is light green, right? So rush success, I want to compare that to the 2022 season. This is their grades going into the last game of their season against Penn State. So they had played 11 regular season games. I don't have the data after Penn State because they didn't play a bowl game because they were not good that last year. Rush success down to 104 from 45. Out of 132 teams, 104. Line yards down to 98 from 75. Pass success down to 56 from 37. Pass blocking actually went up from 30 to 15. Havoc went up from 49 to 41. Finishing drives went down from 69 to 77, which is roughly about the same. The biggest difference was there was no run game. So even though better pass blocking, better big plays, they knew what you were doing. They were keyed in on him. He didn't have the same amount of success because there was no run game to balance him out. So I just wanted to provide that in comparison with the change in his stats from 2021 to 2022. It's exactly what we thought. There was no run game to support him in 2022 at Michigan State. And therefore, defenses had an easier time defending him and their pass game there.
Also, too, just from reading up on him and from people who cover Michigan State, he suffered a foot injury first game of the season last year. And according to people, that kind of affected him also that year. Their O-line was not all that great. They had a similar-ish situation to what Auburn had, where they were shuffling O-linemen. No running backs. Walker's gone. You had Keon Coleman and you had Reed, who went second round, but he was out for like a game and a half with a weird back injury. And so he had some handicaps. It wasn't the same situation in 2022 as it was in 2021. And he still put up respectable numbers considering all of that around him. All Auburn is asking him to do is be accurate, which when you watch him on film, he appears to be pretty accurate. Ability to lead the football team. He led a Power 5 football team for 2 seasons, had a good season. Decent arm strength, decent maneuverability. Like, these are things that Hugh Freeze is looking for in a QB. This guy checks those boxes reasonably. So you have to like what he brings to this team versus what the coaching staff is asking him to do. We already have a stable of running backs. The offensive line looks improved. The defense looks like it's getting some dudes over there. It's particularly at edge. D-line is looking pretty impressive there. Like, I like what this team looks like. Whenever we have a quarterback comes in and just do the things we need him to do, Auburn becomes a very dangerous team. And that's all Hugh Freeze and staff is asking this guy to do. Not be the next Cam Newton, not be this larger-than-life dynamic player. Just complete passes. Make defenses, for once, have to defend the entire field and not cheat and play in the box because they know what we're going to do on the ground. Make teams respect the pass, and I think Thorne does just enough to force teams to do that, which makes this offense pretty respectable.
I agree.
So we got a comment. Let's get to some comments, and we got to get to some interesting questions, because I had some for you guys, but some of the folks in the comments have already asked these questions, so I'm gonna give them the love for it. Thomas Jones, appreciate the super sticker. Thanks for being with us today. He asks, how come Alabama fans are saying it's no big deal Caleb Burton transferring to Auburn, but Jamison Williams was different when he transferred to Alabama with similar stats?
I don't listen to nothing they say, so I don't know.
Does Burton have any stats?
Burton doesn't have any stats.
Right. So
yeah, Jamison Williams hadn't played very much when he transferred either. That's his point.
Yeah.
His point is that, well, they're very different players, first and foremost, right? Jamison Williams is a speed guy. He's take the top off of the defense kind of guy. Caleb Burton is not that. He's more of a crisp route runner, secure kind of third down, reliable pass catcher, right? Like, he's not going to stretch the defense in the same way Jamison Williams, but Alabama fans will say whatever to satiate their own egos. So I don't put very much stock in anything they say. They're excited about a transfer quarterback from Notre Dame who did absolutely nothing at Notre Dame with his offensive coordinator. So take that for what it is.
Yeah. Mr. Tyrone says, is Montana coming or not? We'll talk about that later when we discuss receivers. But good question. Thanks for being with us, Mr. Tyrone. Kyle Sweat says, I'm loving the new portal and transfer window. Selfishly, maybe, because it just adds so much excitement in the off season. I have to agree with that assessment for sure.
It helps for sure.
Mr. Tyrone comes back and says the whole Peyton sitch is eerily similar to Bo's, and talking about how the fans feel about him in terms of leaving, him coming to a new start here at Auburn.
That's fair. Michigan State fans were like, he was on an up and down. Hey, this guy's a bum, blah, blah, blah. We want somebody else new. And then once he left, they were like, whoa, what are you doing? Why are you leaving us? That's actually, it's not wrong. That's not wrong.
True. Yeah.
Lisa Daniel says that dude that dude on Friday said that people don't want Robbie Ashford as quarterback.
Yeah.
Let's clarify. He was saying that he didn't feel like some of the top brass around the university were sold on Robbie Ashford as the guy to lead the team. Now, he did clarify and said that he felt like that was due to some things that he felt like were more of his opinion of what they wanted, more so than him talking to anybody and them saying that they hadn't said that, but they had said, these are the characteristics of who I want as my quarterback. And he did not feel as if Robbie embodied those characteristics. So therefore they were looking for someone else. So it sounded as if he was saying this is what he's been told, but he did clarify. Nobody said to him, we don't want Robbie. It was just, here are characteristics of a quarterback I like. Here are things that Robbie has. Let me see how many point for point matches we have. And we don't have a whole bunch of those.
Yeah. More specifically, he said, the question exists, is Robbie Ashford playing for himself? Right. Is he playing for himself? Right. Or is he playing for the team? And, that's all perception.
Correct.
So
Right.
That's all perception. So I'm sure there may be some people, if the perception exists, it's because, something happened that gave that perception. It doesn't mean that it's true. It just means that something happened that gave somebody that impression one day. I worked for somebody early on in my management career that told me, as a leader, you are not just responsible for what you say, you are responsible for what other people hear. Right. So, you own the messaging. If a message exists that does not represent who you are or what you've said, it is up to you to own that perception exists and then get out there and correct that. Right. And so that is something that you can control. Now, you can't always control how people are going to take things, but for the most part, you can control how clear the message is, and you can control clearing up discrepancies in the message when it exists. So if what JG is saying is true, right, then Robbie Ashford has one simple goal this summer, right? Become a better leader. Become somebody people can turn to. Become the guy who is what Hugh Freeze has publicly stated that he wants in his starting quarterback. Somebody who keeps his head up. Somebody who comes to him and does not vent down, but vents up when things go wrong, right? And somebody who is, projects confidence, right, and leadership when the chips are down. And for some of these kids, man, it just is what it is. Like, but you kind of like in the league when they would talk about how like you see Tom Brady going absolutely nuts on the sideline, slamming things, yelling at people, but it was passion, it was fire, right? And then when Cam would do it,
he's being immature, emotional. Yeah.
Right. And so what is not as important, I think, than just understanding that the perception exists and understanding what you need to do to counter that. And if you're going to not care about what perception exists, you need to be really, really good.
Correct.
Yes.
Or at the very least, you should care about what the coaches think.
Correct.
More so than anything.
Right.
Well, like I said, if you balling out, they're gonna think what they're gonna think, but like they're not gonna put you off the field if you're balling out, if you're doing all the things you need to be doing. These things come into question when you are not your best player self.
Right.
Then they start talking about all these intangibles and stuff. And there's some dudes who are just so good, it just doesn't matter when they have a bad moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he's just not there yet. So all these kids have a growth and maturation process that they have to go through. And it's not always fair. And I can't stress that enough. The perception of how people see you is not always fair.
Right.
But you gotta own it. Like, I mean, if you knew me in college, you knew I had braids down my chest. Right. It took me all of 2 months in corporate America before I was like, I don't know if I want to fight this fight.
Yeah.
For promotion over hair. So I went to Supercuts, got the worst haircut ever, and moved on with my life.
You should have did it yourself. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. I was new to Vegas. I
still didn't get the promotion because I went to Supercuts.
You look like Gumby, Giddens.
Well, we can pretty much guarantee Supercuts won't be giving us an endorsement deal. Let's keep this train in motion.
That's the first thing I thought. I was like, man, he has the same. I went to Supercuts. It was serviceable. You could have covered it up a little bit. Oh well. Any barbershops out there want to sponsor War Report? You know,
I got one on there. I got a barbershop on deck. Kerr Barber is excellent. He's working on it.
Oh,
but you get my point. I can take this stand and say, I don't think my hair should hold me back from an opportunity, or I can get a haircut and just move on. For me, it just felt like it was easier to just get a haircut. As soon as I got it, people were like, oh, you look so great with a haircut. Now, mind you, there were multiple reasons I got a haircut too, but like it just felt like that was not a hill I wanted to die on. And all these kids have to make decisions about the hills that they're willing to die on in terms of how they're perceived. You can complain about how you're perceived, or you can just do what it takes to change how you're perceived, right? And that's I think the line of fire that most of them have to cross. And, he's going to have to figure that out, right? So, like, I think he's got it in him. And I don't think it's any secret. I like Robbie Ashford a lot. I like his ability. I like who he is as a person, right? But these are young men just trying to figure out how to navigate life right now. And there's a lot going on, and student athletes have a lot to juggle and to deal with, right? And so he's just got to figure it out, man. This is part of his journey, I think.
And the thing I worry about for Robbie, though, is now how many opportunities will he have?
Yeah, man. That's it. That sometimes that window closes quickly, right? And now I've been open in saying that I feel like his window here is closing pretty fast, right? So he's got to get this summer. There's zero time to waste if you're Robbie Ashford. Yeah. Erase this perception in the next 2 months and move the narrative forward to your ability.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We can't be talking about off the field. We can't be talking about other things come fall.
Right.
So
for sure.
You just can't afford that.
And Lisa Daniel says stereotypes carried weight once you're putting them out. That's what she says, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Just talking about in reference to JG saying those things, like him putting that out there now kind of reinforces thoughts and processes about a stereotype.
But it doesn't. I would just argue it just doesn't matter, right? Because if it existed internally, that's where it matters.
Correct. I think my big thing around that is him saying it out loud may change how fans feel about something, but that stereotype wasn't a fan narrative. Right. That was that's it. I would agree if it was actually narrative driven, right? Like it's driven by actions, and those actions have weight and consequences around them. Now, again, to Mike's point, is it fair? That's a different conversation.
It's a different conversation. Whether it's
completely different conversation if it's fair to characterize it in a particular way. The problem that you have is that if it is a narrative that persists internally, and it's not just one person feels like that, but that's being echoed around the building, then you have some work to do on your own perception and realize, okay, if everybody feels like this, or a majority of people feel like this, maybe it is something that I'm doing that I need to change.
Correct.
Right? You kind of have to be self-evaluative in that way to say, okay, I'm hearing this a lot. Is there something that I need to change about myself? And you may do that self-examination, say, no, they're full of crap, man. Like I've gone and I've talked to, I know it was 20 people saying that, but I went and talked to 60 other. They don't feel that way. I'm good where I am. Right. But if you don't do the work on figuring out, and let's be clear, it's not just a pure numbers game. It matters who thinks that too.
Correct.
Right. Because if two guys sitting on the end of the bench think that, who cares? If three guys who are starters and the coach thinks that, big difference.
Okay, so I'll give you an example that happened last year. TJ Finley and Moped Gate. Right? A lot was made of all that happened there. The guy who it mattered to did not care one bit about Moped Gate. Internally, it was pretty close to a non-issue as it could have been. Coach, what do you think about this? TJ Finley is going to practice, and we're getting ready for a game. Right. And that was it. Right.
Listen, I don't talk a lot about our stuff, but personally, we've had issues with people around the building about certain stuff. We asked the people who it mattered to, and they were like, "What?
What? It doesn't matter.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
That's not a real thing." And we're like, "Oh, okay, all right,
okay,
well,
Well, move
Keep
on.
moving.
Yeah,
For sure.
that's it. So, I mean, it's you hear something to Ike's point, and then you'll say, "Hey, okay, let me ask the people who matter.
Do I need wait a minute.
Is this
Do I need to change something?
Yeah, looking for some constructive criticism here.
Right.
Do I need to change something, or is this something that you're thinking? No, son, that's don't let that stuff get in your head. Okay, or you know what? I'm glad you came to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you get. And this is something when I get my chance to talk to players, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give them is find the feedback. Don't let the feedback find you. Go seek it out. Know where you stand. Because I'll tell you what, I never got a review from a boss that was a surprise to me. Ever. Every time it was review time, I knew exactly what was going to be on it because I was always checking in to see where I stood with that boss. And if he was going to put something on that review that was going to be a shock to me, he was going to have to face me and be accountable for all the things he told me prior to that review. Where did this come from?
Right.
Because I check in with you regularly and you've never said anything about this. And now suddenly it's review time and you got a problem and I'm not getting a raise? No, sir. Right. And if it's me and I'm a quarterback, I'm seeking out the feedback so that when you come to me and tell me that I'm not going to be the starting quarterback at Auburn University, you have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Because I've been checking in with you about where I'm at, and if or you don't have a story to tell because I'm clear, and you've been clear on where you think that I'm at. If it were me, I just would not wait to be told I'm going to be number 2. I'm probably going to know that going into the season, and then be actively working on the things that had me at number 2 instead of number 1. So, like I said, I mean, it's not different. Like these are young kids and they've not even really been in the workforce. So they don't know how this is, right? They're learning it.
And most of them are coming from situations. If you've gotten a scholarship at this level, you're coming from a situation where you've never had to have this conversation with a coach before because you were the guy walking in the door.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. I mean, this is the grace that I have for young athletes. Because they may or may not have mentors in their life, guys, to explain this stuff to them and say, hey, here's how you impress your coach. Because here's how you impress any boss. Don't wait to be told, do. Sometimes ask for forgiveness and not permission. What matters is the initiative that they expect a leader to take. Hey, man, I love that you did this, but when you do this the next time, let me just show you how I would like you to do it. But great. Awesome. Those are the type of players that become mini coaches on the field. Those are the type of quarterbacks that are allowed to call their own audibles. Well, the coaches, you know what I mean? They talk about the NFL level, like some QBs, like Peyton Manning, had the leeway to just change plays. And when nobody screaming at him about it, there's a result after. But if you want that kind of latitude, right? If you want that kind of autonomy, then you have to be a good steward right now over the simple things, right? The fundamental things, the fundamental parts of leadership. And that, again, it just takes a while for some. I mean, man, when I was 20, I didn't get it. I can tell you, and I was already in the workforce while I was a student, and I didn't get it. So it's not a shock to me that some of these athletes don't get it. They just need good mentors. And I'll tell you what, man, this is where I put a lot on coaching. If a guy doesn't get it, when people say, oh, he's got a bad attitude, okay, that's part of coaching. Coach that. Just don't say, oh, he doesn't have the right attitude and throw him away. What is that? You're supposed to be a leader of young men. You get paid $6 million a year, not just to coach football, but to create good human beings, man. And if you're a coach and you don't want to be a mentor, like, I just don't know what to say about that, man. I don't know what to say about a coach that wants every kid to come in ready-made to be a leader.
And let's be clear, he's not saying that Coach Hugh Freeze is that guy because both have echoed that.
They want to do that.
Robbie has said, hey, listen, this is the first time he's felt like legitimately coached hard by anybody, right? So This is not an indication that we feel like Coach Hugh Freeze is doing that.
Yes,
gotta clarify.
Yeah, thank you. But I just feel like that should always be an emphasis from the coaching side. This is why I always lean back when people are attacking players. I'm like, oh, but what about the coach? What about the leaders? What about the guys who have been there and are supposed to know and supposed to be imparting this wisdom onto these young kids? While they're being, it's hard. It's never been harder to be a student athlete than it is today, particularly with social media. We were in school, Jason Campbell and Ronnie and all those guys, they did not have to read about themselves the same way that these guys have to read about themselves and hear foolishness from everybody. Anybody with a Twitter account has a soapbox with some stupid opinion that could go viral at any point. Some dude with 17 followers says some stupid crap. And then all of a sudden it's a narrative that exists. But it's not really. But if you're an athlete, you can't always tell the difference. So blocking out the noise is important. And I think that coaches should be coaching that part of it as well, too. If you're a leader, there's just certain things that you got to keep out. You have to limit the voices, man, that you let speak to you, that you let guys. I believe very strongly in the power of words, and, I mean, we all grew up in the church. Right. That if there's anything that I believe that what I was taught straight from the Bible is that, it said that life and death was in the power of the tongue. How many other things are in the power of the tongue? Words are very possible. Listen, I'm not the guy that you can just say anything to, and we're going to pretend like you just didn't say it. I've never been that dude. Right. Once you've said it, you can't take it back. I can forgive you. But whatever feeling is left from what you said is going to be there. And that's how most people are. Terry. So do you have exactly 17? So, for me, I'm telling you that the words and how things are said to these guys, it matters. And it matters in terms of how they receive it. And it will help shape who they become as young men. So it's important to make sure that you're imparting that wisdom in a way that it will be received in that way. And that it gives them a chance to grow into the best person that they can be both on and off the field, right?
Yeah, I just that takes a great deal of maturity, Mike. And unfortunately, on Twitter, there's not a lot of that.
Yeah,
so,
the adults in the room have to lead the conversation, though. This is why I always go back to coaching, right?
Yeah.
The adults in the room have to lead the conversation when it comes to this.
Let's grab because we're kind of over where we want to be right now. But let me grab this one. Walt Taylor says, didn't Michigan State have 4 games with under 50 yards of rushing last year? They actually, that is correct. Washington, they rushed for 42 yards.
That was a dad question right there. He already knew the answer to the question. He was just wanting to put it out there and confirm that you knew the answer.
No, we do, but I'm stating it for those who don't know. Minnesota, they rushed.
Didn't I tell you to put your shoes up earlier today? Did I not tell you to put your shoes? Nah, Dad, I ain't never heard you say that in my life. I don't know what you're talking about.
They rushed for 7 yards total against Ohio State. And 37 against Michigan. So Thorne, he shouldered the load last year at times. So when people talked about the interceptions and that he felt like compensating, that's what they were talking about. Like he didn't have the help he had in 2021 with the running game. I suspect he will have some support here at Auburn. It's at least this year for sure. Good convo, guys. We see some of you guys questions about who we think is the guy who's going to be QB1. We'll get to that after the break. But, guys, we definitely want you to share this content. Smash that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's pause to acknowledge the sponsors of your favorite YouTube Auburn channel.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at gwt2energy.com.
Definite shout out to all the sponsors of the War Report. Thank you to those of you who continue to support us with memberships, and those of you who are gifting memberships, we thank you for that. We've got a lot of great film review content popping up. I'm gonna be back in the saddle this Thursday doing some film reviews, so you want to make sure that your membership is up and paid for this month as we dive into this film on new folks that are joining from the transfer portal in both basketball and football. $5.99 lets you get that on demand. If you just want to be able to be there for the live stream when it goes up, you can be a supporter and have that. And it will be worth your time if you like doing film. And we got so many other things coming up this summer that we want to be able to get ready for you guys. So just stay locked in with us. Membership gifting is a thing for those of you who are currently members and you want to pay for someone else's first month of membership. YouTube will randomly assign that to someone who interacts with the content. All you have to do is click the little button down there in the live chat and tell how many YouTube memberships you want to purchase. And then YouTube does the rest. We appreciate, again, those of you who have continued. I think Brian Hancher has already done that once today, gifting some memberships. So we appreciate Brian for continuing to support in that way. We're doing a giveaway right now. You need to hashtag get your weight up in the live chat to be eligible for this giveaway. We'll be doing that drawing here in about 20 minutes. So make sure you get your hashtag in and get your spelling up so that we can get that popping off. And if you didn't know, it's summertime, guys, and your heating and air system is important. Harmon Mechanical, if you're down in the Auburn area and surrounding areas, is going to be able to get you right. You want to make sure that you check in with them. They've got a great system right now that they're doing where you can purchase a monthly subscription service, and then you can just have them come out and check in on it so you can be proactive about the care for your heating and air with Harmon Mechanical. If you're like B. Will, you want to have that proactive care for your system.
Oh, yeah.
So make sure you check in with Harmon Mechanical, harmonmechanical.com. You can give them a call at 334-219-0717 to make sure that you get your first estimate locked in with them. Go ahead and set up a call with them or a time for somebody to come out and check out your system, and you will definitely not regret that.
Caesar, before we get into the second segment, I just got to give a quick shout out to Auburn baseball. If you weren't watching last night, great comeback win by them. They went down 3-0, came back. I had to leave the game a little early, but the Eagle flew for the first time in a baseball game in Auburn history. And it turned out to be a good luck thing for them because they took down number 1 LSU 8-6 last night. They are currently up 6-1 in the second inning on LSU against number 1 LSU. So winning this series would be a huge, huge boost to their postseason prospects. And I felt like this is a very good offensive baseball team that I've watched all spring. They just struggle with unforced errors and pitching, right? Weird, wild pitches, and just some of the most Murphy's Law things that can go wrong for a baseball team have gone wrong for them. But they seem to be putting it together. Beating LSU 2 out of 3 would be a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
So a lot of people didn't see the Mississippi State series going the way that it did, and their bats have come alive at certain points. So they've walked a lot of people in the first inning. They walked a lot. LSU did, but Auburn it can be a factor here, and the SEC kind of going into the postseason. So big shout out to them. Seeing the Eagle fly from center field was cool last night. It was a really cool thing to watch. So we posted video of that as well. You can check that out on Twitter.
Joe Kyle says, good work life advice, Mike.
Hey, man, listen, get that promotion. If you want that promotion, you can wait, right, and hope you get it, or you can do everything you can to make sure that you're the one that gets it, right? Because if I'm not getting it, I want to know I'm not getting it before they announce it. And that's just me, right? So a lot of these guys just need to hear that, I think. And I think there are a lot of parallels between like regular work life and the on-field promotions that these kids are looking for. Can only be one quarterback, really. So it's not a lot of positions available. This is you're applying to be the CEO when you're trying to get a quarterback position.
All right. several of you guys have asked this question, so I'm just gonna string them along and then get you guys feedback and thoughts on it. I'll chime in as well. Starting with Brad Browning saying JG ultimately stated Thorne is next year's starter, still has to earn it, but do y'all think he's the guy? James Barnett says, fellas, are we automatically saying Thorne is the starter? Does it really matter what Robbie does since everyone is crowning Thorne? Seems like I've seen this movie before. And I think I missed her comment.
It was Lisa Daniel.
Lisa Daniel basically.
She basically asked the same.
Yeah, she basically asked the same thing. What are you guys' thoughts about with Thorne coming in? What are the state of affairs? What do you think things stand currently with the QB room?
Thorne raises your floor in the passing game. He does, because he's done things that nobody currently on this roster have done in their college football career. So I think that gives him an edge. But again, his upside is not as high as Robbie Ashford's, if you ask me. If you're the coaching staff, you want Robbie to raise his floor so that it's easier to pick him. Right? He's got some really high highs, but his lows can't be as low as they were last year. Now, you could argue that a healthy Robbie Ashford automatically is going to have a raised floor. But you haven't seen it yet, and you have that tape on Thorne already. So I do think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for these guys to overcome Thorne, and they're going to have to use everything in their disposal to beat him. So if it were me, again, I'm trying to beat him with knowledge of the system. I've been here all spring. What do the coaches want us to do? He's got to learn that. I'm here. I'm trying to beat him with team chemistry. You just got here, bro. And I've been going to war with these guys all spring, and most of these guys for most of last year. So I'm trying to beat him there too on leadership, right? And then just expectations. Like I said, if you were here, so you have some advantages that you can use to try to keep him at bay, or at the very least make it such a hard decision that if they choose him, his leash is short. They're like, it was so close, but we're going to go with Thorne. And then if he starts to mess up, make it an easy decision for the coaches to say, like, hey, if all things are equal, Robbie Ashford can run too. Because the other thing nobody's talking about really, I think enough is that we still, even though we expect the offensive line to be better in pass protection until we've seen it, you might need his athletic ability depending on how this offensive line plays. And I don't know that Thorne is historically bad on the run. Ask any Michigan State person, and they'll tell you, once you force him out of the pocket, it's get ready. You're going for a ride. Robbie presents multiple threats in that regard, and you may end up needing it. So we'll see. But if I'm Robbie Ashford, don't make the mistake that TJ Finley said he made. When he got called on, when Bo got hurt, he wasn't ready. He said it. I wasn't ready. And so if you don't win this job, you better be ready, when they call on you.
B. Will, your thoughts on the current state of affairs?
I was pretty sure before the spring started that they were going to get a starting QB out of the portal. And I think that's what they did. Having no intel, I'm pretty sure they promised him the starting spot to get him here, because why would I come there to compete? There's no reason to go anywhere to compete, because I could start here if I just want to start. I want to start at somewhere better. Like, that's the difference. I can be a starter in the Big Ten, which is the second best conference.
But to be clarified, though, he was not guaranteed the starting job at Michigan State had he returned.
Oh, okay.
He had to compete. He had to compete. It was an open competition.
Gotcha. So obviously he don't like open competition. So further strengthening my point, why would I stick around? I am coming somewhere to start because I started for 2 years. I had a great year one, and then I had a terrible run game and okay pass protection. And Michigan State's pass defense was also terrible last year. So the team was not good around him. And he's like, I'm not doing that anywhere else again. So you'd guarantee me I don't even get the same job I had with a terrible team around me. Like I kind of understand the thought process. Like everything around me got worse, and now you're knocking me. Okay, y'all got it then. Y'all can have Michigan State. And then again, JG alluded to it, but something is going on behind the scenes there, where players are not happy. Players are leaving, and it's not just as simple as the quarterback not getting his spot. A lot of players are leaving Michigan State. More than the 10 who left Auburn. We were kind of pale in comparison because we had 10 guys leave, but those guys were mostly guys who weren't going to see the field. And so you can kind of understand why those guys make that decision. Michigan State, something different. Guys who would be starting. The wide receiver who jumped out there, who I think is actually going to visit Auburn, he left. Why? You started last year. You're going to start again as a wide receiver? So there's something going on behind the scenes there. I don't think Peyton Thorne comes here to compete. And as much as we can hear Coach Hugh Freeze say things like, well, you know, it's going to be a competition, and we always want to encourage competition. Let me tell y'all something, man. Coaching got harder astronomically with NIL and the transfer dropping at the exact same time. Harder astronomically. You used to be able to recruit, get a guy, sign him. Now, you can graduate in 3 years and go do what you want to do, but you're here. You're pretty much here. We know Nick Saban loves that system because he has been boo-hooing ever since it stopped. Because you could just have kids waiting, whether it was for their benefit or not, and then you just get the benefit of having a guy who's been in your culture and on your team and in your program for 3 or 4 years, even if they didn't want to be there. But when their time came, hey, maybe they still don't compete. There are players who end up seniors and then they just play in spot duty their last year because they're the most senior guy. Sometimes it works out. A lot of times it doesn't. These kids are rotting on the bench and they don't have any tape for anybody to see. It's finally a situation where players do have something that they can do. I can go somewhere who's going to play for somebody. Somebody's going to play me. I'm going to get some tape. I'm going to be at least having something to show once I'm done with college. I think that's a good thing. But the coaches now have to re-recruit the guys that you already had. If recruiting was already a 365-day-a-year job, then what is it now? It's insane now. You can have guys who you thought were completely happy, ready to start the next season. Well, I know I got him coming back, and they just dip. Why? Because I got more NIL weight on me. The coach at Pitt, Jordan Addison, he went and went to USC. He was like, man, I don't know what I got to do with these guys. And, man, forget these guys. He was kind of trash-talking the kid, which is not good, but it's a tougher job. If you're telling me Hugh Freeze sat down and told Robbie and Holden, nobody's going to come in here and get guaranteed a job because you guys have worked so hard and I believe in you guys. Me, B. Will is thinking, you just talking because I still got like a week and a half before I can jump in that portal, buddy. Would that be the story? That was before April 30th. They can't go nowhere. I'm telling you whatever I got to tell you as a current coach in college football to keep you on this team and on this roster until after April 30th. Then you can believe what you want to believe. You know why? Because you ain't going nowhere. Not without wasting a year eligibility. Not without just sitting. So my options become clear. I can tell the kids, Holden, Robbie, neither one of you guys showed me exactly what I wanted to see. I'm going to get another dude. If I go and get another dude, he's got to be more prepared than you guys, or else I just start you guys. So it's going to be somebody I think is more football mature with experience than you guys, and that's going to give him an automatic leg up. Is anything possible? Sure, but more than likely, you're going to be backing up and fighting for that number 2 spot. After April 30th, sure. But if you tell them that before April 30th, they're going to leave. Holden Garner, at the very least, like, why am I here? I got my free pass. I can go anywhere, buddy. I'm out of here. Robbie, you don't want to tell him that because then he stops. What if he gets disengaged? I would be upset if you did that to me. So I see why Robbie would get disengaged. I think recruiting now is just as negative as it could have been when coaches were telling you what they wanted you to hear just so you would stay and not leave after 3 years. I think it's just as negative, except now you got to tell these things to keep your room ready. Because if you tell them the truth early, they're going to leave. Then you're going to have Hank Brown and Peyton Thorne, and that's it. Is that a situation that Hugh Freeze wants? No. So he's going to tell these kids what they want to hear. I think we've been coming this direction the entire spring, whether TJ Finley stayed or not. This was always going to be what happened. Whether or not it works out best for the team will depend entirely on what Peyton Thorne does under center once he gets the job, because I do think we're going that direction. That's it. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's right or fair. That's what I think is going on.
I'll disagree Slightly. I'll mostly agree that Coach Hugh Freeze and company wanted this to be the direction that they went because of where they came in with the perception of the quarterback room and then reaffirmed that perception. What I will disagree with is when they had those conversations with those young men, nobody who was in the portal was worth having a conversation about. So yeah, we want you to stay because I don't like none of these dudes. He said it himself. Everybody keeps telling me about quarterback. It's like, none of these guys move me. What are we talking? There is no conversation about a portal quarterback to be had right now. None of these guys are that good. So when he was having that conversation with them, and we're like 2 days before the portal's about to close, he's like, I don't know if anybody's gonna hop in the portal that's impressive to me. And I really have a short list of people who I'm even interested in. So
the first visitor was on the last day.
Right. So it's like so yeah, today I can say that to you with confidence. The reality changed 2 days later, though. Yeah. And it's like, okay, the reality changes, so does the conversation need to change. It's like, okay, wait a minute. I know what I just said, but
I'm just not sure.
Kind of bad.
I'm just not sure that Peyton Thorne is good enough to have promised the job to. Right? Like I don't know that he is that good.
I think that's a matter of perception about what good is, though. Right.
But yeah, like I mean, I don't know. I just feel like, at the end of the day,
also
you can want him. You can really want him to come without promising him the job to get him here, because it's not like he had some plethora of other options. He wasn't even guaranteed to win the job where he was at. Right. So
he had only been in the portal for like a day. I don't know what his other options were going to be. Right. So I don't know that I agree with that at all, because I know that there are others. Now, how many of those are Power 5 opportunities? I don't know the answer to that.
Wasn't he? He could have gone. Was he a graduate transfer?
Yes,
he was a graduate transfer. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So he could have gone wherever he wanted to. Right. Yes. So now again, how many opportunities he had and what those opportunities looked like, I don't know the answer to that one, right? Because we know that Casey Thompson at this point, as last reported, he came here, but it looks like where he's going to end up is Florida Atlantic, right? So it's not as if he had a bunch of other P5 offers that were sitting out there for him.
Right. Yeah.
So Peyton Thorne, but you don't have to get a P5 offer to get to the NFL. You just got to go ball out wherever it is. I don't know that I agree. As a grad transfer, he only has a couple years of eligibility. He wants to go somewhere where he has a better than good chance of starting. Now, they might not have guaranteed it to him, but they definitely told him something that made him say, that's I got a really good shot at this.
Yeah, that's where I'm drawing the line. I think that the two things can be true here, right? You can indicate to a guy that he has a really good shot. If you come in, you're going to have a really good shot because this is what we're looking for, and we feel like you fit that. But you're still going to have to show it and earn it, right? So, like, I think you can stop short of saying he was promised the job. Right.
Yeah, you can't promise him the job because he can come here and craft the bed.
Yeah, and then still say, hey, you've got, if you come here, you've got a really good chance to start.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not even disagreeing with you. Like I feel like that was probably closer to the conversation.
That's what I think as well. And also,
come here, we're going to hand you the job. Yeah.
If we're to believe what JG lamented, that Michigan State is trending in a negative direction, and you have a fresh start at a place that's likely different from where you were, it makes that place appealing, and you still got to compete regardless. So if I'm competing on a team that appears to be trending up versus staying at a program that appears to be trending down, I'm gonna get a fresh start. SEC,
and it's the SEC, baby. Come on, man.
Yeah. Like, listen, I don't think it was that hard of a sell.
It's not like the Big Ten is some crap conference, right? Like, I mean, sometimes, but it's not like the Big Ten is anything to sneeze at. It's just that it is the SEC, and it's the SEC West. Yeah, the SEC West is NFL light. It is, man, I'm telling you, this is your chance. You get a chance to get on that stage versus Bama, versus LSU, versus Texas A&M. Some of the biggest stages in college football, some of the best venues. You get a chance to walk in there and show you can be the guy on that level against premier talent. Every year, the SEC has an incredible streak of most draft picks going here. And you get a chance to compete against that. Right, and be a starter. Like, I'm betting on me if I'm paying Thorne and just saying I'm out.
Yeah.
Right?
I think he's the front runner for sure, based on what these coaches are looking for. But again, you got to have competition. You're bringing talented guys in that room so they can compete.
Man,
Robbie wants to compete.
Right.
Auburn wants to compete.
Or maybe he gets in here and these numbers that we saw at Michigan State look a little different versus SEC talent. That's why if you're Robbie Ashford, you have to stay ready. Right? Because his tape at LSU, at MSU, is not, to me, it's not a full indication of what he's going to do in this conference against these coaches, against these defensive minds. Right? Like, I mean, it just can be two very different situations. So he can come in and, maybe his floor is a little lower in the SEC West. We don't know for sure. I think you have more to you have more to go on. Now, I think that's what the coaches are looking at. There's more tape to go on with him than anybody you currently have on your roster.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, right? But if you're Robbie Ashford, you stay ready because you don't know what this guy's going to do.
Or, again, foot injury last year. I mean, I think that's the more probable if he gets injured.
All right.
You have to stay ready.
Stay ready, man. Don't make TJ's mistake. Like, I like that TJ came out and just was honest that he was not, but it was disappointing to hear. Right? It was really disappointing to hear that when your chance came, you weren't ready. You didn't stay ready. I got down on myself when I lost the job to Bo. Like, what did you expect, though? Bo was a 2-year incumbent quarterback. And I know he thought he could beat Bo out coming in. A lot of people thought that. Maybe possibly just based on what Bo had done or not done up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But you knew, you definitely weren't promised the job coming in. Right. And then when you lost it, you had a chance. And then Georgia State happened. It was like, okay, maybe we'll get a shot. And then Bo got hurt. And all you had to do was go out and beat South Carolina.
A team that you beat already.
And admittedly, and again, if anybody thinks I'm crapping on TJ, by his own admission, he wasn't ready. He didn't stay ready. If you're Robbie Ashford, you cannot afford to make that mistake. You don't know when you'll get another chance. You just don't. So stay ready.
Before we get to the drawing, I got to pull it up. I'm going to grab this one. French Taylor, we appreciate the super sticker, man. I know you asked this a while back, but he says as long as, he says Roddy, I was talking about Roddy Rich, but Robbie Ashford gets his shot through competition. I won't have an issue with Auburn. In the past, several Auburn coaches have not started black quarterbacks who were the best athletes, so we will see. Is that...
The only time I had my eyebrow raised as far as is he not getting the shot, because I think he's actually equal in talent, was Jason Campbell.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who that I think Ike is doing this in calculus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming we're talking about Malik Willis, right? And
that's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm like, who?
But the next one I would assume would be starting. Maybe Robbie being the best athlete. I don't know. Like I don't know because I don't know how that applies to Coach Harsin in that scenario. Robbie is definitely the better athlete.
I don't know what window of time is the past either.
I'm like Kyle Frazier.
Don't mention that name. Don't mention that name.
You know what? With that, we're gonna move on.
Cody Burns, right?
Oh
like
my
I'm
God.
like, I don't know, man. My eyebrows are raising that comment.
I'm praying he's not talking about.
I can't think of any really good black quarterback athletes that were the best athlete and didn't start.
Right.
Yeah.
Beside Malik, yes. I mean,
and
Malik,
even in the Malik scenario, I don't know that he was the better quarterback choice.
Yeah,
and he'll admit that he's the better athlete, but probably not the better quarterback.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
who knows? Let's get to the giveaway because we still got to talk receivers. Some of you guys' comments. We're giving away a mug courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Guys, you already know what to do. We're well past the mark. If you haven't entered to win, then you just don't want this mug because Ike is drawing right now.
Yep. Let's do it. I saw somebody mention John Franklin. He wasn't a good quarterback. That's not.
Yeah. I mean, he was athletic, sure, but like, I don't know.
Hey, look what we have here. And I know you here. I know you're here because you've been commenting. I've been seeing you. So here's what we're going to do for you, sir. We need you to email us business@the-war report. Business@the-war report. We need your physical address Congrats, P-Pass.
I had drinks with P-Pass, and he did not mention that he was P-Pass. And when I meet y'all, I need y'all to go by your YouTube names.
Yeah.
So I know who you are.
That's
I'll
always
run out later
interesting to
with
me.
you
Like
guys.
people will come up and speak to you, and it's like, hey, and it's like, I don't, I can only see like this really small circle of a thing. Like I don't actually know who you are until you tell me. I recognize YouTube handles though, because that's what I see the most is your YouTube handle.
Right, for sure.
I ran into somebody at the game. Her name was Sherry. I think it was Sherry last night, and she said, "Mike J, I watch you guys all the time." She's like, "This is my husband," and then she completely chastised him in front of me for not watching the show. It was amazing. But now I'm always in the comments, like looking for the names of the people we get a chance to meet in person. I think it's
hilarious.
Funny. Yeah, I keep telling you need to watch these guys. I was like, yeah, what she said.
P-Pass says different guy on drink.
Yeah, all right.
We were out for drinks. It has to be him. It's definitely him. It was definitely him. It's him. Yeah. He's playing games.
Hilarious.
I don't
listen,
I didn't drink either. P-Pass.
let's talk about the other. We spent a lot of time talking about Thorne, but let's talk about another commitment that occurred yesterday. That is Caleb Burton, the transfer from Ohio State, 5'11", 169 pounds. He's from Lake Travis High in Austin, Texas, a former 4-star receiver, redshirted, dealt with injuries. We don't know if he's still dealing with injuries, but if you recall, Ohio State had an impressive wide receiver haul for their 2022 incoming class. So he wasn't able to see the field, willing to bet on himself, coming back to the South in the SEC, playing for Auburn. Thoughts on this pickup, guys? I know there are a lot of wide receivers. It seems like the dominoes are falling in place for receivers now that we've got a quarterback in play. Thoughts on this guy?
Listen, this was a top 150 player. So he may not have any stats, but this was a top 150 player. And for whatever reason, if you commit to a school and you feel like it's not working out, for a lot of these kids, it's in their best interest to transfer early rather than to waste years someplace where you already see your potential may be dying. Right. And, believe it or not, man, I think Auburn is an attractive place right now with Hugh Freeze as coach, where they're changing things up and you get the chance to be on the front end of that offensive revolution. So, if I feel like there are no favorites, then this might be a really attractive opportunity for me, particularly if I don't want to say it's too much competition where I'm at, but these guys just want to get on the field, man. I don't think that it matters as much that they beat out, would you rather be competing for a job at Bama for wide receiver, right? Barely lose it, but then sit there and have to wait on the next 5-star stud to come in and possibly maybe rise the depth chart or maybe fall further down the depth chart, depending on what those kids are promised? Or would you rather transfer out, go someplace like Auburn, where they're on the come up and they haven't established that pipeline of talent yet, and compete there? Because you were already a top 150 player. I would choose the latter. And more guys are starting to do that. The portal has opened that up even more because you can do that without penalty at least one time, or not have to wait until you graduate to do it. But, early on, I think you're going to see more and more kids transfer early in their careers once they get someplace and figure out that it wasn't what they thought it was going to be for whatever reason. Take that red shirt and then take that 1-year freebie and start over someplace else. Why not? Right. So, a lot of people are writing him off because he doesn't have stats. And I'm just like, this is almost as good as recruiting a kid out of high school.
Yeah.
In this particular situation where he has not played and you know what I mean? Right. There's no stats. There's nothing. He's not necessarily disgruntled. Like he got to college. He spent a year in college and he still got 4 years left to play. Why not? Why not go after a guy like this? This is what's good. It's part of what's going to make recruiting rankings so difficult, I think. Truly, when you're trying to judge a class that Hugh Freeze brought in, a lot of people will, if this guy balls out, a lot of people will overlook Burton in the grand scheme of what this first recruiting class was for Hugh Freeze. But the truth is, this was just as good as getting the kid out of high school, just a little bit better, because now he's had a year to develop physically at the college level. Mm-hmm. So, we'll see what he can do with them. But they've made it clear that, beyond a couple guys in that room, there's not a lot that's set in the wide receiver room. Competition is going to continue there for sure.
Yeah.
B. Will, your thoughts on this pickup?
The first thing I thought was, and I take this as part of why I believe that, even though what y'all said was accurate about Hugh Freeze promising the job to Thorne, I agree with you. I don't think he said absolutely no way you're not starting, but I think they were like, hey man, you do what you've done. If your floor is what I've seen, we believe that you're the guy. And I think what's evidence of that is, how do these wide receivers start committing or looking at us harder once Thorne got on board? That's something that changed, which means either the wide receivers in the portal didn't like what we had at quarterback initially, or the coaches are telling them, hey man, just wait until I get this dude. Because I'm of the same belief. I was like, listen, man, Peyton Thorne didn't light the world on fire, but what as a wide receiver did you see in Peyton Thorne? Or did somebody send you in Peyton Thorne and be like, nope, that's it? Something changed instantly. So we got a commitment the next day from a wide receiver from a program that was just stacked with wide receivers. And I can see why we like that promise, right? But again, I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit because he hasn't played yet. He hasn't played anywhere yet. We haven't seen him play. And just going by rankings doesn't tell you much, because we just lost a top 100 player in Dylan Brooks, who for some reason didn't make it on the field here when we were not incredibly talented. Here wasn't the first in line to see the field here in this spring when we didn't have a lot of experience here at that position. So we know what the rankings mean as far as potential, but I just want to see these guys get on the field. I love the pickup of a guy who has a lot of eligibility left. You just got that 1 year out of the way where develop your body and be in practice, be in film rooms, get to learn how football is going to go at the college level. Cool. He's done that. He's ready to contribute. Let's go.
Thoughts on this pickup, Ike?
I mean, listen, there's not a lot to say about him because he doesn't have a lot of tape outside of high school tape. He is from a skill perspective, he's a backfill for what Dawson was going to be on this team, which is an additional slot receiver. 5'11", he's not going to play on the outside. He's not the kind of speed that Dawson was. So you are losing a little bit of the top end speed, but you're getting some better route running and understanding of wide receiver concepts. So he should be where he's supposed to be on particular plays, and he's got good hands. So, what you lose in speed, you pick up in just wide receiver ability as far as what this offense is going to require you to do. But I do still think that this quarterback is going to need somebody to take the top off a little bit better. And I've said it before, I don't know that we have a lot of those guys. Javarius Johnson's got speed to be able to take that. He doesn't really have that. They want a combination of size and speed. So they're going to want 6'1" and above with closer to 4'4", right? Like we got a lot of, high fours, high four, like a 4'8", 4'7" type of guys that are small, but then everybody who's taller, they're closer to 4'5", so like they want somebody a little bit taller, but still some top end speed to be able to threaten on the outside. And we don't have that yet. So hopefully we'll be able to get that in the next couple of pickups that are coming, which there aren't a lot of those guys out there. Let's be clear.
Right.
Brad Browning, speaking of Burton, Brad Browning says, I heard yesterday that Burton was getting beat by walk-ons. Does he elevate the floor of the wide receiver room?
TBD.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I don't. Do we really expect him to really? Do we really expect him to really contribute a lot, considering he's essentially a freshman?
I've not been down on our wide receiver room. So like I just
Right.
To me, there's plenty of talent in the wide receiver room. Now,
Right.
they want to add guys certainly, and I think if a former top 150 player wants to come play here, then you don't say no unless you're that tight for scholarships. But TBD, does he elevate the floor of the wide receiver room? Maybe because I had a chance to ask JG about Mardner, and apparently Mardner has there's a couple guys who have underwhelmed, but those are guys who have come in recently and underwhelmed. So I don't know. They didn't take the floor down; they just didn't raise it. Right? Yeah. So like I said, I'm excited about the guys we have.
Yeah, I will say yes and no. Again, if you look at kind of just a holistic attrition, and this is going to sound like I'm sliding Dawson, but it is what it is. Like, he did have issues with drops. He did have issues with not running the routes properly, right? So if you have a guy who you can count on, even if he's number 3 on the depth chart as far as slot receivers are concerned, but when he gets into the game, he's going to be where he's supposed to be, and he's going to catch the ball if it gets thrown in his direction, then your wide receiver room floor has risen. Is he better than any of the guys who didn't hop into the transfer portal? That's the TBD. I don't know the answer to that. But again, because he's projected, or what I would assume he's going to be at 5'11", is going to be a slot guy. That means he's going to be fighting against Javarius Johnson and Jay Fair. Is he better than either of those guys? He's definitely a lot faster than them. Is he better than them? That's to be determined.
Right.
Also, Mystic Wanderer says the wide receiver room seems pretty happy about Thorne coming to AU.
I take responses by current players measured. I don't expect anybody to be on there and be like, who do we get? Why did we get this dude? Right. So yes, they're going to be excited about, hey, come on in here. We're going to get. That's supposed to do that. I don't want to downplay it, but I also don't want to overreact to it.
Yeah.
The player said kid commit is like, oh hell.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Lee Sorrell says, do y'all believe we will have any more wide receiver transfer portal grabs or no? So let's talk about that. There's currently a guy who was on campus just recently. I believe it's Jair Shorter of the North Texas transfer wide receiver, 6'2", 218 pounds. Had 23 receptions last year for 628 yards, 11 touchdowns. He averaged 27 yards per catch, which means he was a big impact receiver for North Texas. He was on campus, loved his visit. Also is considering Mississippi State and Colorado, but left with high regards for facilities and the coaching staff and could make a decision within the next week or so. Also, you have Montana Lamonius Craig, who's already visited. That's the Colorado transfer. Auburn's in it with a few other schools. They still feel pretty good about him, but again, we will see. The guy who was catching passes from Thorne last year is believed to be visiting Auburn today. That's Keon Coleman. I know he was visiting FSU as recently as yesterday. I'm not sure if he's still on campus or if he's still making his way to Auburn, but Auburn's in it for a few receivers. So getting Thorne in was pretty big in terms of how they're able to kind of pitch to these other receivers. But thoughts on these receivers, thoughts on who they're bringing in. I know, Mike G, you've been big on the wide receivers we have. I have as well, but with guys leaving, you do need some added depth and guys who can come in and kind of shore that up. So, thoughts?
Yeah, there are a few more guys out there that are kind of sexy names in terms of the portal that they should take if they can get them to come here. But I'm always leaning towards developing. I mean, the success of the Hugh Freeze tenure is going to be about how well he can take the guys that he currently has, make them into a team, make them into a serviceable football team, and then continue to build through recruiting, right? The portal, to me, is really distracting from, how a steady program is built. I still don't believe that you build a steady program through the portal. I think you can fill gaps. I think that you can even I think that you can even find some really like dynamic players, right? You know, you may get lucky and find a Joe Burrow type in the portal. Now, I think he was technically pre-portal, but you get my point, right? Like you can definitely luck up and find some people who are going to be great players for you, you know, in that regard. But if you want to build a consistent winner, it has to be done through recruiting, right? So, you know, does Auburn go out and find any more wide receiver transfers? Maybe, maybe not, right? But the success of this room, I don't think is going to be about who they get from the portal. I think it's going to be about what they do with the guys they have, right? You know, Coy Moore has got to be a guy. He's got to be a dude this year. This is his year to be a dude. You know, Camden Brown has to develop into the player we all think that he can be based on the flashes that we've seen, right? Jay Fair has to make me right. You know, these guys just have.
What about Malcolm Johnson? He's coming back off injury.
Oh man, yeah. Listen, I'm worried about his injury though, right? I'm worried about how far he fell behind, but he's still a guy that the coaches mentioned. There was a thought that he was still going to be a deep threat for them going into this season, and you know, we'll see. Man, Malcolm's a really smart kid, and he's the type of kid that I talk about that's going to find success no matter whether it's at football or not, right? But it's just a lot going on there, I think. And, you know, if you can get a guy like Malcolm to come back and, you know, ball out, you know, with some eligibility left, good for him. I think that would be excellent for the staff to do. I just don't think the success of this room is going to be based on, you know, finding guys in the portal. I think they already have great guys. You develop a passing game, man, and give these guys an opportunity to show what they can do. I don't really feel like they've had a good opportunity to show what they can do yet. I don't think anybody can argue with that with the lack of pass attempts that Auburn had last year. When did they get a chance to really show off and get into a rhythm of the game with the pass game? It didn't really happen.
I hear you, but I look at it similar like the QB room. If you have an opportunity to get a guy that you think that can really elevate or really be a key factor in your passing attack, now that you got a quarterback that you feel good about, I think you get him, and I think he does. He can change what you want to do with your wide receiver room. But I do like that, and that's really no slight to the guys who are in the room already. But we've seen this coaching staff hit home runs on guys that they bring in.
Right. Like okay. So to your point about what you're talking about, like to me, Rivaldo Fairweather is that kind of player. He's the kind of player you went out and you got in the portal and like, boom, you know, he's a dude. So it doesn't matter what you had in your tight end room. He makes your room better. Right. So you take that guy. Right. I'm saying I don't think Burton's that guy. Burton is not a Fairweather type of talent. Or at least not right now, because we haven't seen anything. We haven't seen it. He's done nothing to show us that, right? So I'm not saying don't take the guy. I'm just saying I don't think the success of this particular room is going to be based on who you get in the portal right now. Yeah, unless there is a guy out there that
I think Keon Coleman might be that kind of guy, though.
Right? Yeah. So to Ike's point, like, you know, if you're bringing in a guy like that who has that potential, sure, bring him in. Let's see what he can do. Right. Yeah. I don't see why, unless you're short on scholarships, I don't see a reason not to add.
Okay.
I'm just saying, looking to the portal to say, oh, if we don't get somebody, this wide receiver room is screwed. I don't know that I'm there.
Oh, yeah. So let me be clear. I don't think if we don't get Keon Coleman that we're not going to be productive from the wide receiver room. I do think that he elevates the talent in your wide receiver room, though, for his ability to. He's a big body receiver. He goes up and gets it. He gets good separation. When he's not separated, he's still open. He's one of those kind of guys.
Yeah,
and that is the wide receiver that Hugh Freeze wants in his offense, and so he is who we was hoping the kid from Cincinnati would be, right? And so if you're able to get Keon Coleman, then yes, you absolutely do that for sure.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is. It may not be. I think we all have guys in this wide receiver room that we like and we want to see get a chance. And to your point, Mike, no, I don't think our wide receivers have got the chance to show what they can do or even to develop, because developing how? We didn't catch the ball. We didn't get the ball thrown at us. How are we developing? How are we working on our our connection with the quarterback when the game plan was run, maybe pass for like 5 games last season. So they'll get that shot now. But as far as I agree that it's Hugh Freeze's job to develop, but I also agree that his job number one is to win. And if that means we get 3 new starters at wide receiver at the portal and they play to the level that he wants them to play, if he is wrong and he could have gotten that same production out of the guys who are already in our room, but he didn't check them, he just went and got new guys, but still gets the production, he's done his job. He's done his job. Do we like, again, and I think I've said this, and I think we've all agreed with this, we want the guys who chose Auburn, who have been here through these struggles, to get the shot, to show what they can do. I absolutely want that. But I don't think it's Hugh Freeze's responsibility to give them that shot over bringing guys in who have equal potential or better. That's I think his job is to win. If he wins, if we get the production from the wide receivers, this shorter kid from North Texas, 11 touchdowns and 23 touches, we can say maybe somebody on our roster has that potential. Have they done it? That's crazy production with very limited touches.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I just want to clarify that giving somebody a shot, I don't think he should give anybody a shot over anybody, if that makes sense, right? I just feel like there should still be a emphasis on developing who you have to some extent, rather than just saying, we don't like this, let's just go find a guy. Right? Like, it's got to be a healthy mix of both, right? And I feel like if you do feel like a certain position group is that weak, that you're like, man, we got to go find some guys in the portal. It's kind of when Ike and I were talking, a couple of weeks ago about the messaging to the current players, as it pertains to going out to find people. To me, the message got really negative for a while if I were currently on this roster. Because all I'm hearing from my coach is that we're not good enough. We got to go find talent. Okay, bro, this is the SEC. We all got recruited to SEC schools. We're talented. So work with us. And that's all I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you, B. I'm just saying, like, I think it's a healthy mix of both, right? Where you can not say it's not necessarily about giving any of the current guys a shot over, right? Like, portal talent, but you can still put an emphasis on making sure that the guys that you have get the development they may not have gotten before you arrived.
Yeah. I will say this too. I think if we're going to be fair also too, this is year one of a coaching staff that already understands it's going to have to flip his roster to an extent to do what it wants to do. I think moving forward, you definitely want to get your guys out of high school and develop them, to your point. You want to have more of that than you have your reliance on the transfer portal. But in a year one, you may be more heavy on portal needs based off of just what you not having the guys to do the things you want to do in year one. So I do think we have to keep in mind, I expect to see less of the need to go into the portal and grab guys moving forward as this coaching staff moves on. I just think year one, we're seeing a lot of it because of the specific needs this coaching staff needs.
For sure.
Walt Taylor, didn't forget about you, buddy. He says, is that LSU baseball coach hanging out with the Bama baseball coach, referring to the score there and what he's been doing?
Is he throwing it? No, he's getting thrown is what's happening, right? Listen, Auburn's baseball coach was really hot about something. And sometimes I hate about being in the press box watching anything is it's not always clear to us what's happening when there's like an altercation down on the field. We just see play stop and everyone's looking at each other and we're just like, do you know what's happening down there? Like he was arguing last night with the umpire for a good 5 minutes. I thought he was going to get thrown out. So I started filming it just to see if I could catch the "you're out of here" part of it. Yeah, I don't know. I like the fire that the baseball team has right now. I think they're fun. To me, they're fun to watch. They're really fun to watch right now.
This is for you, Mike.
Shout out to the softball team for getting the dub today. Another series win too.
Shout out to the softball team for sure.
I hate Yahtzees. They put something out, and I just wanted to tweet, like quote tweet and just like stop, please stop. Come up with anything else. Marketing people, they got guys with marketing people around there that can come up with something else. It feels like a Bud Light campaign.
Good. With that, Ike, tell the people what you got cooking up, sir.
I got film on deck, man. I've already gone through and I've cut up at least 3 games worth, at least 3 games worth of Peyton Thorne throws to get to you guys. I've got 3 games worth of Chaney Johnson basketball film. I have 2 games worth of Denver Jones basketball film. I got a bunch of film. I got film on what's the kid that we just got? That's the edge. I have a film on him. I got film on deck coming for you guys. Don't worry. If we get any new folks in here, I will go get film on them. We got a ton of film to review. You guys will be the most informed portion of the fan base just by coming in here and chopping it up with your boy. You got to be a member to get on board with that. So go ahead and get those memberships active. We will start this week unleashing more film. If you are a member and you want to gift memberships, it's never too late while this live chat is going. Go ahead and drop that in there so somebody can take advantage of that. If you didn't get a chance to win anything today, you can definitely spend a few of your hard-earned dollars and purchase something from our shop. WarReport.com has got you covered. New merch drops coming soon. If you don't have the opportunity to go back and watch us on YouTube, you can go back and listen to some of our content as the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, including some audio-only content with Mike Mack and Memes, the Amen Corner. We will have some more Lobtown stuff coming up, just get a little bit more into some basketball things. A lot of great things coming this summer for you all, but make sure you are locked and loaded with the War Report to get all of the things ready for yourself.
Joe Kyle says, good show, guys. Great content. Thanks you, sir, for hanging out with us and for being a supporter. Thanks to all of you guys who've been watching and commenting. Even if we couldn't get to your comments, we appreciate y'all for being part of our community and making it an amazing one to be a part of. We love you guys. We appreciate you. Do us a favor while you're in a generous mood. It doesn't cost you anything to do these things if you haven't done it already. Please share this video on social media so people can find this. We had a great conversation today. Smash the like button. Help us with the YouTube algorithm. Trust us. It helps us out a lot. And subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can find us. I mentioned Instagram and Twitter, but we're also on IG under the same handle at The War Report. Different handle on TikTok. We're TW Report there. That's it for now, guys. But catch us this week as we have our morning drops. Ike and B should be in there on Monday morning, giving you some of the latest. We will see you guys there. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Sunday and weekend. And War Eagle to each and every one of you guys.
War Eagle.